How are you, Buster?
What's going on? I'm doing great. I had a great weekend. I'm a huge, lifelong Vikings fan. They're 5-0, and I went to Vanderbilt. They upset Alabama.
Oh, my God.
A friend said to me recently, they're asking me for lottery numbers now.
That's awesome. And, of course, I'm sure you were dancing around with the Phillies beating the Mets yesterday, right?
No.
You
when is it baseball? I don't care. I'm not,
not
listen, that way, but it's been fun.
Yeah, you can patronize this. You can patronize this. Don't worry about it. You can do that. We won't hold it against you. All right, so yesterday, an unbelievable game, a back and forth. The Mets are just a relentless team, and the Phillies had to match that yesterday. What do you think that game did for this series, if anything?
Well, first off, I think it felt like that the Phillies, had a fever going back to last October, and it broke it finally with their offense. And I don't, maybe it was the fans and the way that they, jeered Castellanos early in the game for not chasing. And that whole part of the team that's really become a talking point. Seeing what happened the last two games of playoffs last year, seeing what happened in the first game of this series, and then to see their offense finally break out. Maybe it gets the Phillies back on the path to being the most dominant team in baseball. And I'd say this going forward. The big question to me in this series is going to be the conditions of the bullpen. The Phillies bullpen, 10 runs allowed in the first 6 innings of work. I tend to believe that might be related to the off days, that group may have been more affected by that than any other. It was good to see Estevez had a good inning yesterday. Matt Strahm, I don't think, is going to have another outing like he had yesterday. So I think that group will bounce back. The Mets, on the other hand, man, they are stressed after these 8 days of late inning rallies and comebacks and the bullpen being used so much. Edwin Diaz, 130 pitches in 8 days, which is staggering. They're going to need some guys to emerge in that bullpen. And that to me, whichever these two teams can get their bullpens in order will be the team that comes out of this.
Were you surprised that he used Diaz in the 7th inning? No. At that point, you got to let it all hang out.
Yeah, David Stearns, head of Mets baseball operations, when he was with the Milwaukee Brewers before, they used, at that time, the Brewers' best reliever, Josh Hader, in the same way. His belief is you use your best reliever in the highest leverage spots. And so to bring him in with Schwarber, I thought was the right call, and he strikes him out in that moment. But here's the thing. At some point, he's going to need some help. And David Peterson did with, throwing 50 pitches in 3 innings on Saturday. But they're going to have other folks. You can't go through October with only 1 or 2 or 3 guys. You have to have other pitchers emerge. Who would have known that Josh Sborz at the beginning of last October would turn out to be one of the Rangers' most important players with how he performed out of the bullpen last year? That's the sort of thing that has to happen.
You've covered baseball for a really long time, as I've mentioned before. Of course, we're talking to Buster Olney. Bryce Harper's playoff numbers are just flat-out staggering, putting him in a company with the Babe Ruths and the Lou Gehrig's of the world. Your thoughts on this?
He's one of those players, and I covered Derek Jeter for 4 years, and I thought he was another one who, people talk about stars raising their game. I don't think that's what happens with a Harper, with a Jeter. What I think is that they have such confidence that they treat the postseason games as they do the regular season. So while other players around them are being affected, they're by the adrenaline of those games in October, it's like, Bryce, like Derek, they lock in on their concentration. And that's why, down the stretch when he was having physical problems, we were wondering about the elbow. I just kind of like thinking to myself, wait till October. Because once you get to October, it just feels like that he's working at a different level than about anybody else.
Buster, there's some stuff going on in San Diego against the Padres-Dodgers series I want to talk to you about in a second. But I want to ask you about the reaction of Philly fans. They sat there. They bailed out in Game 1 in the 8th inning, so frustrated with their lack of offense because it reminded them of the nightmare of last year against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then Castellanos has a moment where he gets booed, and then a Bronx cheer for laying off a low outside slider, and he says these bleeping people. What is your opinion of the Philly fans on how they handle things?
So the Phillies fans and the Yankees fans work under what I view as what I remember when I covered the Yankees, I called the Steinbrenner doctrine, which is that if you don't win the World Series, you suck. And I think that at this point, that's the expectation level. The Phillies fans have reached that level, just like the Yankees, and to some degree the Mets fans are like this. So what I think is kind of interesting is that within 3 weeks, 2 of those 3 fan bases, at the very least, maybe 3 of 3 are going to be wildly unhappy. I mean, and that's just the bottom line. If you don't win and don't have success, and especially because the Phillies got so close in 2022, they were the team to beat halfway through last year's playoffs and were upset by the Diamondbacks. I think the level of expectations of Philly fans is super high, and if you're a player, you understand that, and you know it's not personal.
Well, I think Castellanos made it personal, but he channeled it, I think. You've covered Castellanos, too. He's not the greatest subject to be covered, right?
No. If you're looking for the deep insight, the heartfelt interview, the reflective, he would not be the go-to guy. No. I know this, is that, the times I've interviewed him, sometimes you go into an interview, you know this. You might prep 3 or 4 questions. When Castellanos is there, you got to be ready for the one-word answers.
You certainly do. All right, so here we go with the Mets now coming at the Phillies with left-handers, and the Phillies have a situation at second base and center field where they've been reluctant to play left-handed hitters, but Bryson Stott had a great game on Sunday and made a really good play to maybe save a run. If you're Rob Thompson, what do you do here with those 2 positions, with Marsh and Stott?
First off, in that ballpark, I'm playing defense early. And so I'm playing Marsh because he's your best outfielder. And I'm playing Bryce Stott just because if I'm Rob, he's just one of my guys. Like, I believe in him. I think he's going to find a way, as he did last night, to help you win a game. And you worry less about the left versus right. And the more focus is, okay, who are the 9 guys you want out that they're trying to win you a game?
So you want Marsh playing? Marsh playing center or left?
I want my best defensive outfield, so I got Rojas and Marsh playing the outfield.
All right, you got Rojas in center, Marsh in left. I got you.
Yep.
Okay, let me just quickly ask you about what's going on in L.A. That's TT. I love it. I love subplots like this. I love the Manny Machado thing, throwing the ball in the dugout. I love Flaherty saying, sit the bleep down, all that kind of stuff. But it got dangerous there with people throwing stuff and Tatis and all that stuff. Dodger fans are, in a lot of ways, more unruly than Philadelphia fans. Your thoughts on that?
Well, and I'd say this, too. Like, the Padres and Dodgers tensions are real. And we ought to separate what happened with the fans and throwing stuff on the field. And you hope that doesn't continue when they go down to San Diego. But the stuff between the players is going to continue. Because I'm pretty convinced at this point, Manny Machado understands that for his team, a little bit of chatter, a little of that back and forth is a good thing. And it was very interesting to me. On one hand, Manny was escalating a little bit with his conversations going on with Jack Flaherty, and he's basically saying, hey, let's meet in the parking lot after the game. And on the other hand, he was the guy who called the team meeting to try to settle everybody down.
All right, last question. Who wins this Phillies-Mets series, in your opinion?
I think the Phillies will win that series, and I think the Padres win the series. At this moment, and I picked the Phillies to win the World Series before the year started, to beat the Yankees. But I'd say in this moment, the Padres are the best team in baseball.
Wow.
At this moment. They are playing so well. They have a ton of confidence. Their bullpen is absolutely stacked. And the way you Darvish pitched last night was an eye-opener. All
righty. He is Buster Olney. Buster, thanks for spending a couple minutes. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.